Hey guys, it's Dylan, back with another video. It's been a couple of weeks since I last uploaded. I was actually away for my wedding in India, which I was going to try and turn into a bit of a vlog and upload here, but in the end it was just one thing too many, so I didn't bother. I may throw in a couple of clips. It was an amazing time, but feels good to now be back in the routine, back in the swing of things, and just back on top of work. So I thought a new YouTube video was overdue, and in this video I'm going to be talking about my honest review of living in Dubai now that I've been here for about 7 or 8 months. I've spent pretty much all of that time here. I've been away for a week at a time here or there, but I've basically been living here full time. And I'll just start off by, I guess, giving a little bit more intro and backstory as to why I decided to move, how long I've been here. So the first time I actually came to Dubai was probably 2 to 3 years ago. I think it was maybe September 2022. Never thought of moving here. I kind of knew of other entrepreneurs, people in the online space that had moved here, but I'd just seen it. I thought it would be a good place to go on holiday. So I came out here with a couple of friends, literally for a week, stayed in this beautiful apartment. It's a Sonder apartment in JBR, which again, I may have a clip, but if you've not seen it, it's got the most incredible views right on the beachfront. And we just basically had a week's holiday here. But it's one of the very few places where I got to the end of the trip and I really wasn't looking forward to coming back to the UK. Normally when I go on holiday, I love it, but I normally want to get back home, get back into my routine. But I very distinctly remember, and I think I even posted a story on my Instagram when I was leaving Dubai, just saying that this is one of the few places where I really am genuinely gutted to be leaving, and I hope to be coming back soon. So I think, like I said, that was September 2022. Came back and kind of thought about potentially moving out here, but nothing really happened for a little while. Then one of my best friends who I used to live with ended up moving out here for work. His company moved, they relocated him, and I came out to visit him the following January. So that was January 2023. And at that time, it had been a few months. I'd obviously gone back to a very grey, rainy winter in London. And I just, I kind of knew that I wanted to come back out to Dubai, potentially explore living here. So I came out to visit him and kind of, come for a second trip. I stayed that time in downtown, just in an apartment, and tried to make it a little bit more of a test for what work and life here would actually be like. So, I was going to WeWorks. I was trying to, really have a bit more of a normal life, because I was very conscious that the first time I came, I just basically sat on a beach, had an amazing time, was on holiday, right? So I came back from that trip again, thinking I absolutely loved it, everything about it, the weather, obviously, the kind of culture, the way that the city operates, it all really well aligned with, what I wanted and wanted to, I guess, get out of my life at that time. So I kind of made the decision. It took a little bit of time. I brought over my fiance, now my wife, and so, I had to get her on board with the whole idea. And so we didn't rush into it. We probably spent from January about 7 or 8 months planning and thinking and talking about it. And at one point we basically said, okay, yeah, let's do it. So in September of that year, I came over again for another 2-week trip this time. Again, just stayed in an apartment, was basically trying to work out what my routine here would be like. And yeah, I ran my business from here for those 2 weeks. And at the same time, I did my company setup. Actually, I did that before, whilst I was in the UK. So the company was already set up. But I did my health check. If you know, to get a visa, a residence ID here, basically you have to go and do some health tests. So I basically got my UAE residence by the end of that 2-week period. I had a company set up, I had bank accounts, so I was basically ready to go. Now, because of the timing of that trip, it was kind of coming up to the end of the year. I wanted to go back to the UK for Christmas and be there with my family. Anyway, I didn't move, so we went back, had about 4 months back in the UK. So we had Christmas, January, and then we actually finally moved in February. So that's a long story to, I guess, tell you how I actually ended up here, what that journey was like. But really, it, was over a couple of years. I'm not one of those people who just decided, came on holiday and never left. It was very kind of considered. I was weighing up a lot of pros and cons. But yeah, we moved out here in February, March, moved into this apartment, which I absolutely love. And then really spent the next kind of 6 months through the summer, so probably not the best time to have done it, trying to make Dubai feel like home, which I now feel like, you know, I've done successfully. It does feel like home. I absolutely love living here. So why did I move? Well, I'd been living in London for 7 or 8 years. I moved there at the age of 18 to go to university. I'd also lived in a different part of London when I was younger, and I think I was just ready for something new. I'd always wanted to live in a different country, and out of all the places I'd been, admittedly not loads of places, but Dubai was just a place that kind of made sense. It was logical. It made sense from a business point of view. It was pretty easy. The visa process is not particularly complex, especially if you've got a business or you want to open a business. And it just felt like an easy move. It's not too far from home. It's 6, 7 hours on a flight. Time difference isn't crazy. So it just kind of ticked a lot of boxes. And yeah, I'm super happy I made the move. It's definitely paid off, and I think we're going to be here for at least another few years. Beyond that, I'm not sure. It's not a perfect place by any means, nowhere is. But I thought I would just run through a couple of pros and cons that I've found from living here. So kicking off with the pros, it's an obvious one. Taxes are beneficial. As a business owner, you pay no income tax, and there is very low corporate tax rates, which they've recently introduced. That just means that it's a lot easier and more efficient to be able to invest in yourself, to have more disposable income. You can really do whatever you want, but your money is pretty much yours, whatever you make. And so basically, by moving from the UK to here, I was almost able to double my take home without actually having to increase any revenue. I didn't have to take on clients, didn't have to hire anyone else, all just done by essentially moving. So that's one obvious benefit, but even if that wasn't a factor, I would definitely still consider Dubai. I would recommend it to other people, especially entrepreneurs. And the next reason is the networking and the types of people that it attracts. So partly because of the tax rules, I think, it attracts a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of business owners, but also a lot of people that have big dreams, big ambitions. It feels like the city of the future. And you're just surrounded here by people that are either at the top of their game or they want to get to the top of their game. Really inspiring people. There's so many opportunities for networking, and the people that you meet out here is just crazy. Like, it would have taken me years to meet the same number of high-level people that I've met being here for 6 or 7 months. So that's really, really good. It obviously just helps level yourself up, which I talked about in one of my other videos, by surrounding yourself with these kind of high-caliber people. And yeah, I think as an entrepreneur, it's a fantastic place to base yourself, even just for that reason alone. More on the lifestyle side of things, coming from the UK, having sun every day is just incredible. I still appreciate it so much to this day, and I hope I will never take it for granted, because compared to waking up in those grey, moody mornings in the UK, it unlocks a whole nother level of life just by being in the sun. At least it did for me. I think there's a lot of studies actually that prove that more vitamin D and sun exposure improves your mood, your happiness. We know that by being in a country where there's lack of sunlight, essentially, depression is caused, people's mood is generally suppressed. And so just waking up every day, going outside, feeling the warmth on your skin, getting some sun, it just feels amazing. And it really just makes it easier to start every day in a positive way. Couple of other things, it's very, very safe. London especially has deteriorated in terms of safety hugely over the last few years. I felt it when I first moved to London. It felt pretty safe, whereas now I don't think I know anyone who's either not had like their phone snatched out of their hand, or they know someone who's had their phone snatched out of their hand. Crime is on the rise. Here it's a completely different story. I'm sure you've all seen the TikToks and stuff, but you can leave your phone, your laptop, your watch, whatever, and no one's going to even touch it. Now, I don't know how long that'll last, but the laws are strict, people abide by them, and society just tends to function quite well here, which brings me on to my next point, which is efficiency. Now, this is a bit of a double-edged benefit slash con, right? Because living in Dubai is extremely efficient. You can get your food delivered, your laundry done, you can have a cleaner come to your house in an hour. You can have all of these things done at the click of your fingers. And it's extremely efficient. If you run a business or you work for yourself or you want to be as productive as possible, it really does help turbocharge how much you can just get done in a day. And so in the UK, if I may have had, let's say 6 or 8 at max hours a day to actually work, here I've probably got at least an extra 2 hours because I'm not wasting time doing things like cooking. Now, obviously you can order food in the UK, but here it's just a lot more affordable. And that kind of brings me, I guess, onto the downside of that, which is that a lot of those efficiencies and things that we benefit from are at the cost of other people who are not paid very well at all for the work that they're doing. You could argue that it's just supply and demand, but you do kind of feel a little bit guilty sometimes just, sitting in an air-conditioned apartment where everything is brought to you, like I said, literally at a few taps and at a very low cost relatively. And that's only because of all of these people that work extremely, extremely hard and, like I said, are often underpaid for the work that they're doing. And that's the only reason that it's able to even happen, right, like that. So slight con, that one. It's a benefit and a drawback. But the final thing that I want to just talk about as a benefit of living here is the lifestyle. Now, I touched on this with the weather, but there's so much more you can do here than just going out, getting drunk and going to a bar on the weekend, which is what a lot of people in the UK do. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of other things you can do in the UK. You can go to theatre, it's got amazing culture, amazing restaurants, all that sort of stuff. But I like to go to the beach, for example, and to be able to go and do that on the weekend here to relax after a long week of work is amazing for me. That's something that I hugely, hugely appreciate. I do quite a lot. Now, depends what you like as to whether or not Dubai is probably a good fit for you from a lifestyle point of view. If you like to, explore history, museums, art, all this sort of stuff, it's probably not on the same level as London, for example. But if you prefer to do different things, like I said, go to the beach, play sports outside, you've got all of this available to you. And it's also a lot more than just like the flashy restaurants and stuff that you see on Instagram. There's a much more wholesome side to Dubai that you can choose to live if that's what you want to do. Okay, so now I want to cover a couple of the cons that I've experienced just by living here. So one of the drawbacks, which I've kind of already mentioned, is just the way in which different people within society get treated. I don't particularly like that. I know to an extent I'm choosing and encouraging it by living here, but it's something that I'm conscious of, and yeah, it's something that I don't necessarily like about the city that much. Moving on from that, in the summer it's extremely, extremely hot. Pretty basic, I'm sure you could work that out for yourself anyway, but I was here throughout the whole of the summer, mainly because it was the first time that I was here. I wanted to experience what it was like to actually live through a summer here. And also just because I wanted, I'd only just moved, I didn't want to leave straight away again. But a lot of people will basically leave from June till maybe September, even October. And some of them leave even earlier, May time. And so in that time, the city becomes extremely quiet. There's not a huge amount to do. Because it's just too hot. Like, you can't go to the beach and you will struggle to spend more than 30 minutes or an hour sitting by the pool. So really life then kind of moves inside. You spend a lot more time kind of working if that's what you want to do on the weekends, or otherwise people go to the malls, that sort of thing. But for me, I've found that to get pretty boring pretty quickly. One of the other kind of drawbacks, I guess you could say, is that it's quite a transient city. Now, coming from the UK, coming from London, a lot of people have either grown up there, they've grown up nearby, they're basically based there, right? They've got family nearby, they're not going to be moving anytime soon. In Dubai, there's a lot of people coming through, they're coming out for holidays, they are coming out here with the plan of only staying for a year or two to make some money and then go back home. So I can imagine it's quite difficult to meet really good long-term friends here. There can be an element as well of like clickiness, at least from what I've experienced, but it depends which kind of situations you put yourself in. I'm extremely fortunate in that one of my best friends, like I said earlier, moved out here first, so I already kind of knew him, and then just by luck, a couple of our other really good friends also decided to move. So we've got a pretty good solid group of friends from like university that have all moved here now. But beyond that, I don't really have many friends that I've met here that I would say are like best friends. you know, they're more, I guess, kind of like acquaintances, people to play paddle with, go out to a restaurant with, maybe go to dinner or something like that. But they're not like good friends. So that's definitely something I've noticed. I'm sure there's stuff that I've forgotten, but I didn't want to make this video too long. I just wanted to get back into the habit, to be honest, of posting. I may well do an updated version further down the line, but I hope this has been helpful just to hear another person's experience of making the move, what that was like, some of the pros and cons that I've experienced so far. And like I said, I've only really been here 7 or 8 months, so I will definitely be doing an updated version at some point in the future. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you've got any questions about living in Dubai, feel free to drop them down in the comments below or DM me on Instagram. I'll put my socials in the description. But thank you for watching, appreciate it. Stay tuned, and there's a lot more to come.